And then Bhagwan goes on to describe the three varieties of the food, and this I'll go through quite quickly because it kind of, in a sense, that when we talk about food, if you put in the general category of food, it doesn't just mean eating the food. It means all the food which we take in, not only from the mouth as the taster, which is our tongue, but really through all the senses. We can think of the food for our eyes, food for the ears, and so on and so on. And all this becomes like food. What are we taking into ourselves? And everything becomes food. But if we just focus on that which is the food which we eat, that food which increases life, purity, strength, health, joy, and cheerfulness, it brings about, which is savory, oleaginous, substantial, and agreeable, that is called the sattvic food. Question is, why do we need to eat sattvic food? You see how the orientation has to be total. When we talk about purification, it has to be total. So even food comes into the equation. Is that when I look at food, that my belief is that I should have this sattvic food. My attitude is that I will be having this food which is going to be dear to me. It is going to be savory as well as substantial and agreeable. And I like this food because it is going to give me purity and strength and health and joy. Why? Because it turns my mind towards the sattvic. Remember, there is a relationship between the food which we eat and the state of the mind. This is an established fact, is that if I eat certain kind of food, it will bring a lot of rajasic energy within myself. And if I eat sattvic foods, already the mind is calm and quiet, and it allows for me to sit down and meditate. The foods that are bitter, sour, saline, excessively hot, pungent, dry, and burning are like by the rajasic, and they are productive of pain, grief, and disease. Of course, if I want to travel on my spiritual pathway, and I want to avoid all these kind of things because they're going to be producing pain and grief and disease, and I don't want that because I want to keep my body to be in a optimum condition, and that means I have to look after my food which I'm taking into this body. And that which is stale, tasteless, putrid, rotten, refuse, and impure is food liked by the tamasic. That is completely out. Stale food. We tend to do that sometimes. We eat a bit of food, put it in the fridge, take it out again, heat it up again, eat a bit more, put it back in the fridge. Actually, we are eating this stale food. That's why we need to kind of think about how can I eat fresh food, not that which is stale or tasteless or whatever it is. We have to think about our diet and what we are eating, how we are even eating it, and then to make sure that this orientation towards sattva is obtained even through food. So sacrifices. Now, sacrifice doesn't just mean, sitting down in a puja and doing that kind of havan or yajna or whatever. Sacrifice really means everything which we transact in our life. Remember, earlier chapter was talking about the number of sacrifices which people do in order for them to reach that which is the highest destination. And sacrifice, in a sense, is about the transactions which we carry out, our actions which we are carrying out even in life in relationship to the world. That sacrifice which is offered by men without desire for fruit and as enjoyed by the and enjoined by the ordinance, which is the scriptures, which firm faith. See how these two things come into the equation again. Enjoined by the ordinance, scriptures, and with firm faith. That sacrifice is a duty, sattvic or pure. See how this becomes the way in which we have been talking about karma yoga in the earlier chapter number 3 and 4, how this becomes like a sacrifice is doing our duty in the way in which Bhagwan is prescribing here without desire for the fruit and as prescribed in the scriptures and full of faith. This is called sattvic sacrifice. Sacrifice which is offered seeking for the fruit and for ostentation, you may know that to be a rajasic yajna. So any transaction which we do, which is looking out for the fruit of the action, interested and attached to the object of our desire, and for maybe ostentation, which means showing off, then that becomes our rajasic way of transacting in our life. Sacrifice to be tamasic, which is contrary to the ordinances, in which no food is distributed, which is devoid of mantras and gifts, and which is devoid of faith. So tamasic will always see is something which is done out of ignorance, something which is done in the dullness of the mind, which is not taking into anything in account without any awareness of what is right, what is wrong, what is the right place to do it, what is the right time to do it. None of these things apply to the tamasic personality. So they keep on doing that stuff which is, even contrary to the scriptures. And where food is not distributed, what does it mean? It means that food is not shared. It is taken to be only for myself. It's not distributed, and which is devoid of mantras. So they don't say the food prayers, and they don't kind of do dhanam as well, and which is devoid of faith. And this is the important bit here. You talk about shraddha. There is no shraddha in any of these things, and therefore they just kind of function in this ignorant, heedless way, which is the tamasic way of functioning in life, and especially in relationship to all the transaction. This is the way tamasic people will tend to behave.